Hello, Deanna Trujillo. It is so incredible to talk to you. I'm going to try and keep my cool here because you're just about one of the coolest people on any of the planets that we have robots on. Now, you have worked with NASA since you were 24. You've worked with Curiosity. You've been the telecom system engineer, mission lead. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do now and what your latest mission was?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I'm super excited that the Colombian Space Memorial Center and City of STEM is having such an amazing programming. So to answer your question, yes, right now what I do is flight director for the NASA Perseverance mission, which is the mission that just landed on Mars on February 18. And our main goal is to find out if there was ever any life on Mars at some point in the past. We have a lot of firsts on that mission that I'll be happy to talk to you about it. But one of the things that is really exciting is the fact that we have the first helicopter that we have taken to another planet, and we're getting close to actually starting the helicopter mission. So everybody should stay tuned to that.
Literally just got goosebumps when you said that. That's so exciting. And there's so much passion behind what you do, I imagine. Can you tell me a little bit about what ignited your interest in space and robotics and the type of work you do?
Yeah, I will tell you a few things that happened for me. So one of them is I'm the type of person that loves to look at the sky. I'm the type of person that loves to look at the stars, especially when your day's not going the way that you're hoping it does. And then you lay down on the grass and you look at the stars and you feel like everything just makes sense. And everything is so peaceful and with so much harmony. But it's very interesting to think that you're thinking that way, but at the same time, everything else is happening. The stars, you're going around the sun, the planets are going around the sun. Everything is so much more powerful than that very simple way of seeing the star being so peaceful. So I think that it started for me as how does everything work with so much harmony, and how does everything work so perfectly, knowing that there's giant bodies out there going around. And so yeah, that's how it started for me. And then with respect to robotics, I think for me specifically, I am actually Hispanic. I was born and raised in Colombia and came here much later in my life. And I think I always had in me I can stay still. I am super energetic. I feel like I live my life as if I was having 3 shots of caffeine every 2 seconds, but that's just me. So yeah, so I just like to learn. I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm. And, I understand that at kind of a young age, you were inspired by a magazine article that you saw. Can you recall anything about that or that moment?
Yeah, the magazine article that you're referring to is actually when I was going to decide or declare my major when I was in university. And right before I was going to declare my major, I had been on the guilt trip of the line where you're telling yourself you're not good enough, that's not for you. There's no Hispanic people on this line. Your English is your second language. Why are you here? And right before I was going to walk out, I looked up and I found this magazine. It was actually a NASA magazine with all the women that had been astronauts with their bios. And I realized that, no, if they could do it, certainly I could as well. So that was how the magazine came into my life.
Oh, and you mentioned, you touched a little bit on imposter syndrome, and maybe fear of failure, I feel like, is something that keeps a lot of people away from science, because from the outside, science looks so perfect and clean and like they know what they're doing, and you don't want to be a bull in a china shop. But I understand that your work deals a lot with sick vehicles and failure and testing failure. Can you explain a little bit about how important trial and error is in science and engineering?
Yeah, of course. So yes, you're absolutely right. Sometimes we think about science and we think, oh, what university do you have to go? Oh, is all these Ivy League universities super expensive? Not for me. Oh, am I actually from this country? I'm not from that country. Or the other way of seeing it also is, am I as smart as Einstein? And if I'm not Einstein, then not happening. So I think it's all of the reasons why I will say, it's particularly for me and for my culture and for as a woman, honestly, that we think there's just all the reasons why we cannot and why we don't fit. But interestingly enough, my job is actually to try to figure out what are the potential issues that the mechanisms or the actual devices, in this case, the rover, will have on Mars. And it spans from actually trying to make sure that if the robotic arm gets stuck. So I worked on the 7-foot arm that has the two instruments that do the bioscanning on the surface to determine if that's a good sample to capture to answer the question that we're going for the mission. But we have to also test, what if it actually fails on the way out? How do we actually retrieve it? And we not only do that with the devices, we also do that with people, the operators as well. What if we actually get the vehicle sick, and that same instant, no longer have direct communication with Mars, between Mars and Earth? So how much time do we have to respond? How do we actually respond? Are we gonna freak out? Which we shouldn't. And so it's actually a ton of fun to um, try to break the system itself and see how do we get out of this problem.
So you really do have to confront the possibility of something breaking and not working in order to go ahead, right?
That's right. It's all about trying to see how it would actually work and get yourself ahead of that moment, which is why I think that myself, having come from Colombia and having come from the culture that I am, it really helps me because I'm always looking ahead of, like, 10 steps ahead. What is it going to happen? How is it not going to work? How do I actually get in front of it? And it helps me think about the failure modes and try to figure out an answer for them before it happens.
And I know that interplanetary robots are a big enough accomplishment, but let's say you had a time machine and you could go back to younger Deanna, whether it was on this mission or when you were first starting. Is there any advice that you would give to yourself in the past?
That's a good question. I will not change anything that I have done in the past. So I will say that the question maybe is, what advice, now that I know what I have done, I will give to other people. I think that one thing that helped me a lot was I really focused on trying to learn about myself, what I really liked, what other people were actually trying to do. Are they actually make me, do I really like what I'm doing? Or is it because somebody else told me? Am I nervous about this? Or is it because somebody else made me nervous? And recognize the distinction between who I am and what I like versus everything around it. And then writing down what I liked. So my advice will be like, hey, write down what you really like and put it in a place where you're going to see it every day, because everybody's going to spend time telling you why it's not. And you're going to have to spend the time for yourself to tell yourself why yes. And so I used to, on the mirror, my bathroom, I would just paste the list of the things that I was going to do with my life at some point. And I will read it every morning, brush my teeth. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. And looking back, it's like, yes, I actually did everything on that list, which is insane.
Who knew that a post-it note could be the
So
key
powerful.
to get like living your dreams? And can you tell us right now, obviously we are not on Mars. Can you tell us, what is Perseverance doing right now while we sit on Earth?
Yeah, so Perseverance right now is getting ready for the helicopter mission. So what that means is 2 weeks ago or so, we were driving around and we took images of where we think the helicopter will be deployed and then doing the first flight. Right now, starting actually mid next week, and then probably the next week or so, we will continue to park and analyze the terrain to make sure that that's the right spot to actually start the helicopter mission. What the helicopter mission really means is deploying the helicopter, doing the first flights, and there's a series of flights. It's a tech demo. It goes up to 5 meters. It takes images, and then it comes back down, transmit the images to the rover, and that's the intent, is to demonstrate that we can do that on the surface of Mars. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time for the next few weeks.
How has that impacted your life, working with another planet's solar cycles and things like that? Have you had to adjust to Martian souls?
Oh, 100%. So that, what I mean with what your question really is about the fact that, when we get to the surface of Mars, the first thing that you want to do is check that nothing bad happened. And what I mean with that is, you're crossing the atmosphere at 20,000 kilometers per hour. You have to go from 20,000 kilometers per hour to zero in approximately 7 minutes. And then you need to make sure, I know. And then you need to make sure that once you land, that everything is okay, nothing actually broke. So for the subsequent several weeks, we spent time moving everything, deploying everything, taking pictures of everything, making sure we're okay. But to do that effectively and the most efficient way, we need to make sure that we are operating the rover during the daytime, just like you and I, right? 6 a.m., I don't know, maybe to 8 p.m. when there's sunlight, depending on the season. But to do that, Earth day doesn't actually matches Mars day. So at some point when it's Mars day, it is evening for us on Earth. So the answer to your question is there were many times during the last month where I went to work at 2 in the morning when it happened to be 10 a.m. on Mars. So it's like, oh yeah, 10 a.m. on Mars, 2 a.m. us. And we just went like that. But it's cool. I mean, you think about it and you're walking in knowing that it's daytime on Mars and that you're just tracking the planet.
Oh, I mean, speaking of those 3 shots of espresso, I don't think anyone will blame you if you required that with the 2 a.m. call time. And, can you tell me a little bit about how you hope that your work changes life on Earth a little bit, or what legacy you would love to leave?
Listen, I think that there's a lot of legacy on the things that we're doing with this whole program, right? We first wanted to understand if there was the ability to actually sustain life. So the way that I describe it is as if you are going in I love car trips. So as if you're going on a car trip and then you see the empty house and you're like, oh, you wonder who actually lived there, and I wonder what those people did, but there was somebody there because the house is there. So curiosity understood that there was the environment to sustain life. And then we went to the next mission, which is Perseverance, where you're now asking who lived there, right? And my analogy of the house is
Mhm.
like, I see the pods, somebody cooked here. So I wonder who that is. And so I think that that's kind of what we're doing now is trying to figure out if there was life. And then I think that if we discover that there was life, um, the way that I describe it is I feel like I just dropped the mic at JPL that day and I'll be like, I'll see you. Like, I don't know what else we're going to do except telling everybody we're not alone in the universe. And although we all know that the sun is in the middle of our solar system, sometimes we behave like it's us. And so that I feel like will be the beginning of in my opinion, the beginning of the human legacy to do better as human beings, to be kind with each other, to recognize that there's way more out there than ourselves and our own needs. That it is a network it is a network of life everywhere, right? And so I think that that's going to be, I think, the most important thing for me to help discover.
That actually brings up a question I was afraid to ask, but I'm going to ask anyway now. You said the day that perhaps life is confirmed and discovered, past life on Mars, you drop
Mm-hmm.
the mic. I want to know, how long is it between you finding out about life on Mars and the rest of us? Like, does that have to go through like 6 months of no one can know, or how long until we would find out those kind of results?
I mean, that's the beauty of working for NASA, right? The reason why we do this is because we want to understand the universe, the planets, and how everything works. And we want to understand it together. If you go and look at the images that we have brought down from the mission, it's interesting because I'm watching the actual image coming in on my computer as I'm sitting on console, and then my phone buzzes, and they have already tweeted about it. I'm like, oh, this is great. There's even a GIF about what we just did. So the answer to your question is it's public immediately. So and I'm not joking about the GIF. It has happened multiple times for me where I'm actually displaying the image and I'm like, why don't we just go to the social media page that they just actually have a much better GIF than me doing the 2 images. So I think that that's the thing that's awesome is the mission itself will be 2 Earth years. And so the mission sets itself up to answer that fundamental question of was there life in the past? And the same time that we're going to find out is the same time that the public will find out, which is why it's so important that everybody should investigate with us because there's so many images, there's so many things in there. Alie, one thing that is interesting about your question is in a lot of the images that we put publicly, which is all of them, that is the first time somebody sees that rock. And so in every single image is the first time in that image. So I'm sure there's things that people can help us find out.
Wow. And you said 2 years, but obviously Curiosity has been up there longer. Can you tell me a little bit about what happens after the Perseverance's first 2 years, how it might continue to serve to help you investigate?
Yeah, absolutely. So to take a step back, which I love describing it this way, is Curiosity or Perseverance. They were both a small SUV laser beam eye nuclear powered robot that we took. And in both cases, because it's nuclear powered robot, we can drive it as long as we can have, as long as we can have power, which is the nuclear power feeds into the batteries, which is why we drive. We don't have solar panels like Opportunity or Spirit. And so in this case, that lasts approximately 10 years or so when it starts decaying even more, but that doesn't mean that we cannot continue operations. So Curiosity's main mission was 1 year, and after that, it went into extended mission. Same thing is going to happen with Perseverance. And what we do is we answer the main question, but there's so much more to answer and so much more to investigate. So we are lucky that we can continue to come up with new questions based on the search that we have done and the investigation that we have done, and keep going to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And I know this is going to be a hard question to ask, or to answer, but what is your favorite thing about work? Your favorite thing about what you do? Favorite part of your career?
I think that the favorite thing that I like about what I've done is that I don't stay on a single thing. I like to describe myself as a firefighter version of engineering in this case, right? And so my job really is, where is the problem? That's where I go. And so it's actually coming out with new problems. It's like, oh, I didn't think that that will work that way. Let me find out how it actually, why it did that, or why did it flip that way, and investigating. I think that's the part that I love about it, because it's so much newness all the time, new things that I didn't expect that were going to happen. So I'm never bored. So yeah, so that's what I love about my career.
I think that that's such a good lesson about not being afraid of problems and getting excited about figuring out a solution, you know?
Absolutely. It's so funny that you say that, because we have, even at my house, we have this little song and dance that we do where there's a problem. We're like, yay, problems. And everybody just dances. And it's like, because a non-problem day is a boring day for us. So I think that, so yes, you're right.
Oh my gosh, so many life lessons. Number one, post-it note on the mirror. Number two, yay, problems. Going to be the new way I live. You know what's funny is in the middle of this, I had on their chat, I had asked the director of this, like, how much longer do we have? Because I was so afraid I was going to run us over, because I have so many questions for you. I was like, I have so many questions. I'm too excited to talk to you. And now they're asking us to wrap up, which I could sit here all day and ask you questions. You are just incredible. Such an icon. Do you want to let people know you're from Cali to Mars on Twitter, right? You're tweeting there. People can follow you there.
Absolutely. Yes. So I am from Cali to Mars on Twitter. And every Tuesday, I do a program with NASA called Martes de Marte, which is Tuesdays of Mars, where we do a recap of the mission. So if folks want to know how Perseverance is doing, that's a good way of catching up.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your work here on Earth and on Mars. Just can't wait to see what else comes out of the feed. And thank you from all of the earthly beings who are on this planet. It's been such a joy to talk to you, Deanna.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Have a good one.